Welcome to the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim, and this episode is going to be a top 50 players discussion, and we're going to focus it on the Chicago Bears, and we're also going to be having a discussion about what an interactive mock draft simulator is. So this podcast is sponsored by NFLDraftFanatics.com, and we are going to use their simulator to talk about the Bears and the top 50 players. So I picked Chicago. The simulator has this thing called the second round challenge. So I'm turning that on and I'm going to enter the draft. A second round challenge is 10 unique 2-round drafts. Now the Bears have 2 second round picks. So we're going to have to pick unique players in the second round. And there's going to be 20 of them, 10 for the first pick, 10 for the second pick. Plus, we get to talk about 10 players in round 1. So we're going to try to do as many new names on the podcast as we can. So if you see me skipping a player that you'd otherwise want me to talk about, feel free. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started. So a couple of players I want to shout out to that we haven't talked about yet, or not much. Round 1, edge Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M. Okay, so I'm taking him in round 1. And now the Bears' 2 round 2 picks are going to be coming up. So in round 2, some player names to pay attention to. Cornerback Quincy Riley from Louisville. And let's talk about running back Travion Henderson from Ohio State. And again, so that was 1 2-round draft that I just did. I have 9 more of those to go. Okay. Another, and also observe Stewart moved up to 34th on the board because I just picked him. Another player to talk about in round 1, edge James Williams from Nebraska. He was 82 on the board at the time that I picked him. Okay, another second-round corner to talk about, Mansour Delane from Virginia Tech. Another second-round running back to talk about, Omarion Hampton from North Carolina. I do not want my picks to necessarily indict that the Bears need a running back, but I do want to be able to point out that this is a deep running back class, and the names that should be there in round 2, I want to start having that discussion on. Okay, more edges to talk about. Josiah Stewart, edge from Michigan, round 1. Another corner for round 2, Jahdae Barron, corner from Texas. Is he a corner? Is he a slot corner? Is he a safety? What he is a top 50 player and a really good football player. So there's going to be some position discussion around that player, and we're going to get to a few more players like that upcoming. Okay. Another player to talk about at running back. Okay. DJ Giddens from Kansas State in round 2. Okay, now the beauty of an interactive mock draft simulator is one person doesn't have full control of the boards. So if you notice the players I'm taking in round 1, they don't go all the way to the top of the board. The players I'm picking in round 2 aren't going to the top of the round 2 board. They're just moving up. If you don't agree with any of these picks, then it doesn't matter. There'll be maybe round 3 or round 4 players on the Bears board. If more Chicago fans agree with me, then you will see those players move up more. Okay, so we talked about James Williams already. We talked about Josiah Stewart. The next one from Boston College, edge, Donovan Izaraku. Round 1 to the Bears. Okay. From the cornerback, let's go Tommy Hill from Nebraska. And then let's switch in round 2 and talk about second round safeties. So a safety in the top 50, Billy Bowman from Oklahoma. And we're going to be talking about at least 2 more safeties before this podcast ends. Okay, so other edges, and these are more common names that people will probably have talked about. Edge Jack Sawyer from Ohio State in round 1 to the Bears. And then let's talk about some linebackers in round 2. Barrett Carter from Clemson. And let me do the last one. So safety, looking for Keon Sabb. Was he already taken? There he is. Okay. Keon Sabb. Okay, so want to give a shout out to several of the player boards that I'm looking at as I'm doing this exercise. On my other monitor, I have the player board from Kyle Krabs at 33rd Team and Lockdown Scouting. That's the primary board that I am looking at. I have other boards from Dean Kindig, PFF. Also want to give a shout out to NFL Stock Exchange and Broshmo because they've communicated a lot of the players they think are moving up, and I'm echoing some of what I have learned from them. Okay, another first-round edge, Princely Umalalin from Ole Miss in round 1. I believe that's going to conclude the round 1 edges, and then I will be continuing with some other positions. So safety, one other player I want to talk about is Sebastian Castro, if he hasn't already been taken. Okay, so Castro should be available. Sebastian Castro from Iowa. So Castro is a safety in the simulator. If you watch Iowa, he's going to play some corner, he's going to play some slot, going to play some safety. So they'll move him around. We think he projects as a safety at the NFL level. Okay, so, and now we have another round 2 player. So another round 2 player I want to give a shout out to is tight end Tyler Warren from Penn State. And just observe, he's currently 111 on the Bears player board. It's nice with the Bears having 2 second-round picks because I get to talk about a lot of players, more than I do for any other team's podcast. So I appreciate that the Bears have multiple picks that give us the ability to talk about. Okay, so other players. Let's talk about some first-round offensive linemen. Okay, so a player not many are talking about in round 1 yet. Offensive tackle Cam Williams from Texas. So Kelvin Banks is pretty high on everybody's draft board as an offensive tackle from Texas. I've heard from Dane Brugler that some NFL scouts think Kelvin Banks is more likely to project a guard, and Cam Williams is the tackle at Texas that we should be looking at as a tackle at the NFL level. Okay, some interior linemen that we should talk about in the top 50. Jonah Savaiinaea. And then let's do another tight end. Let's do Luke Lachey from Iowa as a top 50 player. Okay. Another first-round offensive lineman to talk about, Tyler Booker from Alabama. You might see Booker listed as a tackle. He is probably going to project a guard at the NFL level. So that's why Booker is listed as a guard. A second-round offensive tackle would be Wyatt Millam from West Virginia. And let me look at the linebacker and see if there's any other. Okay, Jihad Campbell, linebacker from Alabama, in the top 50. So just observe he's 83 right there. Okay, another late first round offensive tackle that we should talk about, Josh Conerly from Oregon. Observe, he's 234 on the player board. Okay, some interior defensive linemen we should talk about. Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Okay, he's currently ranked 78. I'm going to pick him in round 2. And then a player to give a shout out to, Kevin Winston, the safety from Penn State. He was likely going to be safety 1 or safety 2 in this class. He just got hurt. He's out for the rest of the year. There may even be doubt as to whether or not he could run at the combine. But there's a good chance, I think, a team is going to take a shot at him in round 2 or round 3, even if he has to miss a part of his rookie year. Okay. Other first-round players to talk about. Offensive tackle Emory Jones from LSU in round 1. Running back Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State in round 2. And we've done linebacker, safety. Any more corners to talk about? Okay. Siobhan Ravel from Eastern Carolina. Again, probably was going to be cornerback 3 in this class until he got hurt. So, again, there's going to be questions whether or not could he run at the combine. But, again, in round 2 or round 3, I think a team will take him, considering he is a first-round talent. He's just missing the last half of this year with an injury. So let's review the players I talked about. I believe you're about to hear me shout out 30 names in the top 50. Shamar Stewart, edge from Texas A&M. Quincy Riley, cornerback from Louisville. Travion Henderson, running back from Ohio State. James Williams, edge from Nebraska. Mansour Delane, corner from Virginia Tech. Omarion Hampton, running back from North Carolina. Josiah Stewart, edge from Michigan. Jahdae Barron, corner from Texas. DJ Giddens, running back from Kansas State. Donovan Izaraku, edge from Boston College. Tommy Hill, corner from Nebraska. Billy Bowman, safety from Oklahoma. Jack Sawyer, edge from Ohio State. Barrett Carter, linebacker from Clemson. Keon Sabb, safety from Oklahoma. Edge, Princely Umalalen from Ole Miss. Safety, Sebastian Castro from Iowa. Tight end, Tyler Warren from Penn State. Offensive tackle, Cam Williams from Texas. Guard, Jonah Savaiinaea from Arizona. Tight end, Luke Lachey from Iowa. Guard, Tyler Booker from Alabama. Offensive tackle Wyatt Millam from West Virginia. Linebacker Jihad Campbell from Alabama. Offensive tackle Josh Connerly from Oregon. Defensive lineman Walter Nolan from Ole Miss. Safety Kevin Winston Jr. from Penn State. And lastly, offensive tackle Emory Jones from LSU, running back Quinshon Judkins from Ohio State, and cornerback Siobhan Revelle from Eastern Carolina. So that's approximately 30 players that are in the top 50. I think you have to grade me with a curve because as I'm looking at the board, a few people have some of the guys I took at like 60 or 75. But they're definitely in that round one, round two conversation. So the way the simulator works is the players you pick move up the board. If you notice, I didn't pick any wide receivers for Chicago. I don't see Chicago using a day one pick on a wide receiver, and I don't see them using a second round pick on a wide receiver just because those players may not be able to see the field immediately. But then what do I know? I'm just a guy that has a draft simulator. So there's a reason I didn't pick the wide receivers. Same thing, like I didn't talk about any of the quarterbacks. I don't think Chicago's taking a quarterback on day one or day two. But again, where's the guy with a draft simulator now? So the general premise here is the players you pick move up. And I just was able to pick 30 players. But if you really like Cam Williams, you can pick him more than once, and he's going to move up more than he did. So the more you pick them, the more they move up. That's the way an interactive draft simulator works. Okay, and let's go take a look at the Bears player board for a minute. So if we go to the team needs section of the website and you scroll down to the Bears and we go to the player list, this is the player board the simulator has for the Bears. So as Chicago fans do picks, players move up and down. And if Chicago's not picking in the top 5, you're going to have a really hard time moving the players that are really high. Okay, but let's look at some of the players I picked, and I want to start with Cam Williams. So if we do Williams, you can see Cam Williams moved up to 91. So he was in the 250s at the time I picked him, I believe. If we look at Wyatt Millam, okay, he moved up to 57 by me picking him in round 2. What other players did I pick where they were pretty far back? It was one of the safeties. I think it was Castro. So let's look up Saab. So Saab moved up to 100. Castro moved to 96. So even you can see I picked once in round 2, and they don't even move into the top 60. More people have to agree with me for those players to move up. Okay, so the more people that do second round challenges, you'll begin to see, if I pick 10 and you pick 10, but only 3 of them overlap, it's those 3 that overlap where we have, let's say, consensus that those are good picks. Those will be the 3 highest players on the second round board. And the idea is to get as many fans doing this as we can. And your picks on this simulator are going against the picks of other fans. So when you see Baltimore select a player, it's because a Baltimore fan came in and used the simulator, and that's who they wanted enough that that player moved up. So it's the same thing for the Bears. If there's a player you like, the more you pick them, the more they move up, and fans are going to be mock drafting against your picks. This has been the Mrs. R Relevant Daily Draft Podcast. My name is Jim. Our sponsor is NFLDraftFanatics.com, which is the only interactive mock draft simulator. This channel has draft content every day. Whether you want to hear about the best 250 names that people can come up with, whether you want to hear about positional rankings, top 50 players, we have a lot of content. If you want to ask questions or want to see specific content on specific players, drop a note on the YouTube channel or drop a note on our Twitter. Our Twitter is at NFL Draft Fanatic, no I in Fanatic. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Jim, and remember, every day is draft day if you have the right attitude. Thank you.